years of 0 and then 16 we rose with the chip on our shoulder that everyone knows. I stand with the faithful, the loud and the loyal on Michigan soil where the battle lines coil. I pledge allegiance to the shield and the mane, through the lake effect snow and the November rain. One nation under God, moving the chains with the fire of the city coursing through our veins. Hey! Invisible spirit, upon them will crack. We got the whole league's targets on our back. Watch the war room flicker, watch the vision take hold, turning late round flyers into Detroit gold. He's the master of the board, the dealer of the deck, putting every expert opinion in check. Put every expert opinion in check. He doesn't follow trends, he creates the hook. Quiet in the room, let Brad cook. To the trenches we swear, where the dirty work's done, where the game isn't played, it's physically won. I promise to roar till my vocal cords fray, to believe in the homes and the Brad chosen way. We don't want the flash, we don't want the glitz, just the hunters who thrive in the heart of the grit. Liberty from the cellar, and justice for the years of pain. No more same old lions, just the kings of the northern rain. I pledge my allegiance, my heart and my roar, to the team that we love and the team we adore. With kneecaps for breakfast and victory in sight, we're the Detroit Lions and we're winning tonight.
One sec. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome into the Rise and Grind Morning Show. Hope you all having a wonderful day today. Man, it is beautiful outside. It was beautiful inside, but then I decided to spill my 20-ounce Lion's cup of coffee everywhere. Thank God it didn't hit the computer or go anywhere on my desk. It hit the floor. I was trying to adjust a camera and, decided to elbow punch that thing to the ground. Not cool. Big, giant mess. I'm sure you all have done it before in your time. Spilling something with a large volume of liquid it's not fun. We got some good news, some great news actually today about Jack Campbell and his contract. So I can't wait to talk about that. We'll probably hit that right off the top. Man, the Lions really stole this contract. I mean, we've talked about this so many times on this channel that when Brad Holmes puts his mind to getting something done, he gets it done. And not only does he get it done, he clearly had a message, to Jack Campbell, and Jack Campbell sent a message right back to the Lions team and said, look, I want to win. I want to win a Super Bowl, and this contract is proving that by the way that it has been outlined. I'm surprised that the signing bonus wasn't a little bit bigger, and there's some option bonuses in there that kind of trigger. But you want to talk about an amazing ability for the Lions to kind of stretch everything out over the next, 8 years through 2034? What the hell? Let's just pull it in right away. Talking about it, might as well show you what it is in case you guys haven't seen it yet. So this is Jack's contract. Here, I'll scroll up. Good old Jack on Spotrac. Shout out to our friends over there at Spotrac, man. Love what they do. Appreciate giving me the free premium now. Been upgraded to the free. I've always paid for it, but they gave me a free premium since we're always using Spotrac. Really appreciate what those guys do over there. So yesterday we were looking for this. right? We were looking for an opportunity to be able to talk about this contract from a little bit more, I guess, in a little bit more depth and try to understand exactly what was going to happen. It's this giant deal. The Lions have a lot of big deals on the table right now, and so we didn't really know what was happening. Get some fan going this morning. Put my paper towel away somewhere. But now we have it. So in 2026, Jack is going to be making a base salary of 1.45, so 1.2 million, we'll call it. He has a prorated signing bonus of 3.7. We'll go with 3.7, which is crazy to me that the signing bonus was only 8.6 million. Let me scroll back up so you can kind of see that. Here's the guts of the deal. 4 years, 81 million, 20.25 million AAV, 8.7, we'll go with that, or 8.6 signing bonus. 22.9 is the guarantee at signing. So, I mean, right around a quarter of his contract was guaranteed. I'm surprised by this number. Total guarantee is 51.15. So when Jack signed on the dotted line, they said, here you go. Here's basically 23 million that you're going to get no matter what. And throughout the total guarantee of the contract, it's 52 million. I would assume that 52 million is the guarantee for injury and everything else. If something happens, that's the most that the Lions would have to pay on that contract. If something were to happen, we don't expect it to happen, right? So let's kick it down to year one. Again, he's making just a base salary. Oops. This is the only thing I don't like about this site. There we go. Base salary of, again, that 1.145 million, 3.6 prorated signing bonus comes off this year. And then he has a total cap hit of 4.8 million. I mean, you can't ask for a better deal. But like I said yesterday, I expected for this deal to be backloaded, and it is. If you look at 2029, this deal right here is backloaded 24 million in 2029 and 16.8 million in 2030. So the Lions they're not going to pay more than 10 million in any given season for 26, 27, and 28, which does what? That gives the Lions an opportunity to then sign Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Brian Branch, and others. But look at the dead cap number. In year three, like I mentioned yesterday, a backloaded deal is going to give the Lions some outs. By 2028, if the Lions want to walk away, they can pay about $5 million that year in dead cap and walk away. That's incredible. Now, we got to look at some of the notes and kind of go through this to make sure that that's fully accurate. In 27, 1.26 million. 28, 1.3 million, all base. 29 is where he gets his big chunk. So if he's still with the Lions, if the Lions haven't traded him or something crazy, 15 million in a base salary, 1.7 in a prorated signing bonus, and an option bonus. So these option bonuses that they kicked in, I need to get a better understanding of how the options work, but I assume that's, all of the different escalators and everything that they have built into this contract. But look at the void years, man. They tacked on 4 void years. They're going to be paying Jack through 2034 from a void year standpoint. Obviously in 2029 or 2030, if Jack is still around, which we would expect he would be, that they're going to be already working out a new deal for Jack Campbell. So let's take a look at some of these contract notes. There's probably not a whole lot in here. So 22.9 million guaranteed at signing. Signing plus 26 plus 27 salary. That's the total guarantee. So that makes sense. 27 option bonus 11.9, 28 option bonus 18.9, 29 option bonus 5 million, and 2031 through 2034 are all the void years that automatically void at the end of his contract. So he was slated to make what is that number? I know they crossed it out there. Looks like 2.8 million in base salary this year, with the 1.9 million in prorated bonuses, and then we had the club option in 2027, which I don't know why it's so light you guys can't see it. It's grayed out. But it would have been $21.9 million had the Lions picked up the club option in 2027, which is that fifth-year option, which they voided, right? We expected for them to void it. That was the information that we had prior to all this going down, that it was going to get voided and they were going to work on a longer-term deal. I was more in favor of a 5-year deal, but clearly, for Jack, like, this makes a lot of sense for him, simply because, the 3-year deal is what everyone wants. Primarily 2nd through 7th round draft picks get a 3-year deal, and your first round draft picks, they end up with almost like a 5-year deal, depending on when you're working out the deal. If it's after year 3, you're lumping in year 4 and year 5 plus a 3-year, which kind of makes it a 5-year deal, right? It's very rare to see a 5-year deal in today's league. It does happen, but it is very rare. And the reason why, and I've said this many times, players want a 3-year deal because they want another opportunity, right? They want another at bat to be able to get, a big time deal, in their third deal, so their second deal after their rookie deal. But Jack Campbell, man, he not only does he have a good contract, but this is an amazing contract for the Detroit Lions, and how they're going to be able to fit all the pieces to this puzzle together, moving forward. Maybe we'll see Jahmyr Gibbs get done before camp begins, but I'm honestly not holding my breath. I don't think it's going to happen that soon. I think that if the Lions are going to use all of their levers and all of their options available, you don't really have to do anything with Jahmyr Gibbs right now. It doesn't mean that it won't get done. I would be surprised that if they do get a deal done this year, that it happens it happens after Bijan Robinson's deal. I would think that they want to get it done prior, kind of set that floor, for the next big contract, but not follow. You don't want to follow a big deal like Bijan Robinson. Now, we've had a couple of big deals already get struck for players like Breece Hall, which that's the floor now, right? That I think he was like $16 million or something like that per year. That's the floor. So I did a whole breakdown in the video with all those guys, and quite honestly, hold on one sec. And quite honestly, I went a little bit deeper than I probably needed to, but I went and compared all of their stats and the analytics and the major metrics that really separate those three running backs. You kind of had this 3-way pony race this year between those guys: Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson, and Jahmyr Gibbs. And Breece set the floor. Now, there was another deal that happened after that, and that was Devon Achane. And I haven't taken a look at his deal yet. Matter of fact, let's look at that real quick since we're talking about Jahmyr. But before I get to that, hey, welcome into the Rise and Grind Morning Show. I appreciate you guys waiting. It's been a long couple of weeks here, taking some time off. I still didn't accomplish everything, like I said yesterday. Have a lot to do. Trying to get this house ready to get it up on the market. I've already given a realtor a date of when I want to have it up and get it on the market. It's going to sell within like 24 hours. So that's the goal. That's the houses out here just sell that fast. Everyone wants to be out here by the lake. And so we've got a lot to work on, right? I don't want to be left holding, like not having the next home in play. Because if we're going to build, which is the plan, then we've got to secure something. And we've even considered just buying an RV and RV in it for the summer and just having some fun. But then I started thinking, man, that's going to be interesting. How am I going to run a podcast from an RV? So looking at like a toy hauler that has a garage and a deck, I could easily build an office in there for both of us because she's got all of her stuff that she does outside of her, all of her side hustles that she does. And then I got all my stuff. And so we got to have a place to ship and pack and do all this stuff, right? So it'll be interesting. I don't mind roughing it for, 3, 4, 5, 6 months this year, stay somewhere over the winter, probably grab a place on the lake over the winter, and then camp out again until the house is built. So I don't know, a lot of options, man. I've even thought about building a pole barn, not your typical pole barn, with living quarters in it, and then parking an RV in there. So you got extra living quarters, and then having that done, and then working on the house, because building a house is going to take a year, right? There's no rush in this stuff. I'm not going to, I'm not like a mass builder. I don't want to build something so quick that, the wood's not dry, because I've been through that experience before, and you end up with a bunch of mold and yeah, we're not looking forward to that. We want to do it right and take our time. So if it takes the full year, it takes a full year. But in between that time, it could be a little bit shaky. It could be a little bit different. And let me tell you something, hunting a place with fiber or extremely good internet, that throws a whole other wrench into this thing. It's not easy. It's not easy to figure out, even when you start calling Spectrum or Charter or whomever and trying to figure out where their lines are. I mean, like they're worthless. They don't really give me great information. So it's been interesting. We'll just kind of leave it at that. But anyway, that's what's going on. Appreciate you guys sticking around, waiting for me to get my ass back on the show, and we're here. So let's see who's in this morning. Good morning, Adam. See you in here. Of course, Trace up in the house. Good morning, Trace. Mike P, good morning. Miss P, good morning. Renting a house. Yeah, so we've thought about that. Meme studio. And that's where I'm thinking, like, the winter time, because there's tons of houses that come up on the lake. They'll do a short term, like 3 to 5 month rental, typically through April, because they want to be in before Memorial Weekend. So we could do something like that, like October-ish through April, and then go back to RV in it for the summer, and then next summer the house would be done. Or it could be done to a point where we could, slowly start to move in. But yeah, it's going to be a process. But I want to do it right, because the podcast studio that I want to build, and we're even looking at a commercial property right around the corner. I want to continue doing what I plan on doing, right? Which is a full podcast studio that would be separate and above the house. If we built it on the same property into an RV, not RV, into a pole barn, and make it a really nice, I use the word pole barn, but man, pole barns are not the same as what they used to be. If you do it right, we call it a barn dominium now. But there's a commercial property right around the corner, 1/2 acre. I could build an amazing piece of property there that could house like a barn dominium, office space, and even frontage, man, to have a store. But the goal is to do podcasting on a much grander scale, teach people, bring some people in that know a lot more than me, teach people, house their podcasts, right? Get them up and running, get them on the channel, and continue building that way, building out the network. So it's taken a few years, obviously battling health issues and stuff like that, but now I'm ready to rock and roll. All this bullshit that has happened over the last few weeks, all it did was give me more fire, man. You just added gas to my fire. So it's I'm not happy about it, right? But it's just added more fuel for me to do the things that I want to do, and we're gonna do it. So bad news for the Packers coming up next. Bad news for the Packers coming up next. This morning, we're going to talk a little NFC North news. Sherman Lewis, if you don't remember Sherman Lewis, we'll talk about him. Unfortunate passing of him yesterday. I want to go back in some moments in time. I was talking about it yesterday, kind of going back 21 forward. Like, what happened? Like, when did the ball really start to get rolling for the Lions? And what were those? And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say. Like, what were the moments that really opened your eyes and said, man, we got something here, right? So we're going to do that at some point this morning. Brian Flores, like, this is a major legal battle with Brian Flores in the NFL. There was some new news that popped out yesterday about that whole issue, and man, good for him. Like, I hope that he wins and continues to win and doing what he's doing. We'll talk about that here in a little bit as well. Schedule. I do want to go through the schedule a little bit. We've kind of tinkered with it the last, 2 times that Eric and I have been on. We tried to go through a full breakdown of all the advantages. And I think I've seen some people out doing the same thing, like even this week, kind of talking about the matchups, which is cool, right? That, we kind of started the conversation on, man, these advantages that the Lions really have in this schedule. How does that play out week to week? And even though the schedule is kind of tight in areas, not a whole lot of rest in certain areas, there's still some advantages for the Lions, but there's also that fear of the unknown, right? The fear of the unknown that you're going up against a new team, new coaching staff. There's not a whole lot of tape for these guys. You don't really know what they're doing yet. that can also rear its ugly head in a matchup where you find out like, man, they're a much better team than we thought. Hopefully that doesn't happen this year, and the Lions are just ready to steamroll who's ever in their way. But let's take a look at Achan's. Let's take a look at his contract that he just signed. Kurt, good morning, Kurt. Who else is in here? Rather Be Fishing, good morning. See you in here. Beam Studio's a new name, man. Good morning to you. Zachary Cleary. Attila. Hey, welcome in, Attila. Good to see you this morning. Gino, what's happening? John Desage, of course. Aaron Green. Happy football day. Each and every day. Brandon Martin. Sunburst. Good morning to you. Every day is a ray of sunshine, isn't it? Even when people try to poop on your parade. Terry Schuster, good morning. Thought I saw another new name in here. Where did it go? Where did it go? Oh, Lady Lion, good morning to you. My word matters? I hope mine does too. He says, I made it, woohoo. Good morning to you. That's a new name, another new name this morning. So good morning. Detroit Sports 313, good morning. All right, let's get rolling. Devon Achan. One of these days I'll get his name right? Miami Dolphins going through a major shakeup this year, and they're on the schedule. Right now, planning on going, get the kids together, get my dad together. Maybe Megan's going to join. I assume her schedule will be freed up. But we're trying to go down to Miami and have some fun. Not staying in Miami. Holy cow, is it expensive. Looking at all different options in Miami. I couldn't find a resort for under, God, it was like $1,800 for like 3-4 nights. Anywhere close, into Miami, up and down the coast there. I don't remember what that little coast is called. So I'm looking at like Fort Lauderdale. And it's not even that much less expensive up there, but it's less expensive. I'm not trying to spend a boatload of money to go watch a football game, but I'm trying to stay there for a few days, get some sun, enjoy the kids, and go watch the Lions pounce on these Dolphins. So if you're going, would love to meet up with you guys when we get down there. Devon Achan. So he signed a deal this year, 4 years, $64 million, and it only included a 4.23 signing bonus. I can't believe how small some of these signing bonuses are. And you got 27.4 guaranteed, so just under half, maybe 45% of it guaranteed. Average salary, $16 million a year, and that was right in line with Breece Hall. So that's kind of the floor, right? When you're looking at the next wave or the next evolution of the top running backs in the league, Devon Achan and Breece Hall kind of set that floor, right? So now it's up to Bijan Robinson's camp and Jahmyr Gibbs' camp to set the ceiling. And what is that going to look like? Is it going to be more than Saquon Barkley? If you go back to the video that I did, I think it's called Nuclear Option, where I talked about, Jahmyr Gibbs and Jack Campbell, Sam Laporta, and Brian Branch. I said that Jahmyr Gibbs is going to get the highest contract, without a doubt. I feel like he's going to be the top dog. He's going to be he's going to be leading from the front. And look, I'm not worried about that at all. You got to pay the guy. You have to. And if you don't, what are you going to do? Right? Are you just going to continue to, like Brad, pull the lever and force him to play under the franchise, tag? I mean, you could do it for 3 years. Now, if you go back and watch that video, I promise you, I went through every option available. And let's just put it this way. You can do that for 2 years. And in the first year, you might save a little bit of money. But remember, it's all guaranteed. After that, things get expensive in a hurry. That third year, I found out some things that I did not know before. Did you all know that in the third year, if you do a third franchise tag, which has only been done once in the last 20 some odd years, it is 40% higher than the previous or equal to the quarterback franchise tag, which that's going to be like $55 million. So you're not, or $50 million. So you're not going to give Jahmyr Gibbs a third franchise tag. So he may not even get one. And so for that, I think the Lions are going to get something done, but they do have that one lever to pull. They've already picked up that fifth-year option, so we know that he's good, there. But then after that, it's franchise tag, right? And they could absolutely do that. And even doing it, like I said, for 1 year, I think that they would be okay. I don't think Jahmyr Gibbs would be happy. It's still a ton of money, but not a whole lot of security, right? He's going to make right around 32-ish million if the Lions do exercise, and finish out the fifth-year option and then pull that franchise tag lever one time. That's $32 million in 2 years, right, over 2 seasons. And it's fully guaranteed, which I think would probably be a little bit more than what he would make in a regular deal. I'm expecting a 3-year deal for Jahmyr Gibbs, not a 4, not a 5. And the reason why is because of injury risk and concern. Like, of course, we don't want him to get injured or anything, but the likelihood of a running back getting injured is more likely than not. Like, these guys get injured all the time. They take a lot of contact. They take a lot of hits. They give a lot of hits, right? They're doing a lot of extra stuff in this offense, blocking downfield. So they're asked to do a lot more, which opens up that window of opportunity for more injury. Definitely don't want to see it happen, but for that reason, that's why these guys want to deal with some security, and that's why I think it's going to be a 3-year deal. And if you include the fifth-year option in that, I would say that you're probably looking at 23 to 25, so $24 million, I think, is what Jahmyr Gibbs is going to end up getting, somewhere close to that. Now, with these 2 bottom deals here with Devon Achane and Breece Hall, I think we all agree, when you look at the numbers between the guys, Bijan and Jahmyr are on their own planet. Like, they are way, way, way far ahead. I mean, Jahmyr's had 49 touchdowns since 2023. It's insane. He has 14 more TDs than Bijan Robinson. So he's a different cat. He has more touchdowns and yards than Saquon Barkley. Even with Saquon Barkley's 2,000 yard season, he's outperformed Saquon Barkley since his time in the league since 2023. That tells me he should be the number 1 paid. Now, does that mean that Jahmyr Gibbs would take a little less? Possibly. Looking at HN here for the 5th time, 2027 he's making 10.5 base, 28 14.2, 29 14.2, and 2030 15.7. So if you look at these numbers and then you kind of look at what Jack Campbell just did, I think it lines up, right? So if you're expecting the numbers to be fairly commensurate to, what the AAV is out of this deal for what Jahmyr Gibbs would receive, then Jack's deal just lined up perfectly to allow Jahmyr Gibbs to get paid. And it just being straight up, I think we would all agree that Jack wants Jahmyr paid. Absolutely wants Jahmyr paid and wants him on this team. So interesting stuff, man. Look, the Lions are in a predicament, and like Brad Holmes has said, the constraints. There's bad constraints and there's good constraints, and the Lions are operating from a good position, right? It's not good to have to spend this kind of money, and when you end up having 12 guys that all have damn near max deals at the same time, which is what is about to happen, that's pretty rough to manage, and the Lions are doing an excellent job. And that's why I've never understood, man, why people say fire Brad Holmes or whatever. Like, why would you even think? I don't understand it. We've never experienced anything like this in Detroit, and now we've been experiencing it since 2023, really 2022 with a winning season. We haven't had a non-winning season since. But the way that they're mastering, the contracts and retaining the players that y'all love and want to see on the field, I don't know another team that's doing it better right now. And quite honestly, when you talk about the best GMs in the league, you keep hearing names like Howie Roseman, right? And I'm sorry, I think that Brad is better than Howie. I don't care that they won a Super Bowl. When you look at what Brad has done, in his first 5 seasons in Detroit, he has been better than Howie Roseman. He's been better than, what's the guy's, Snead out in LA. He's been better than Snead. He's been better than Gutekunst. He's been better than all of these guys. Again, I don't care that you signed Micah Parsons, and we're going to roll into that next. What did it do for you? You wanted to sink all your eggs in one basket, and now, that basket's broken. and he's not even in camp right now. So the news out of Green Bay is well, it's bad. There's two things that are happening right now. Number one, get my notes up. Wherever I put them. Micah Parsons, he's not in OTAs. Now, I get it, he's injured. All right, I understand that. He's coming back from an injury, and that may just make perfect sense. But I guess I would have expected that maybe he would have at least, been in camp, or in, OTAs and kind of hanging around the guys. It's not like he can't walk and talk. It's not like he can't learn and listen. And I think it would be great for the, camaraderie and the guys in the room. But he's not in OTAs. He's not expected to be. Where are my notes on this guy? Where is it? So he suffered his injury in week 15? Oh, we got alarms going off here. There we go. All right. I'm just going to go to heavy.com. I can't stand this site. But they talk about adding a veteran to address the roster weakness, which is supporting Micah Parsons right now. On Saturday, Bleacher Report had reported that they need a solution for the whole Micah Parsons. I got this bug flying around in here. For this whole Micah Parsons deal, that he's not in camp, not expected to be in camp, or at least in throughout OTAs and throughout the month of June when it ends, and then obviously they'll have a break and they'll be back in July. But the quote was, Green Bay Packers have one dependable edge rusher right now and plenty of questions opposite of Micah Parsons. And unfortunately, their star sack artist, Micah Parsons, is still recovering from a torn ACL and might not even be available for Green Bay at the start of the season. That was per Knox, and I believe Knox writes for Bleacher Report. Now, they traded away Rashawn Gary, right? And so now you have Luca Van Ness, which he's good, but he's not great. And so he hasn't really developed into that regularly productive player that you would expect opposite of Micah Parsons. When I'm reading this, I'm thinking to myself, man, doesn't this sound eerily similar to what was going on in Detroit? Everyone's screaming for the other side of Aiden, and I'm like, no. It's not the other side. Like, we need someone behind Aiden. Not over there. We need someone behind Aiden. And that's exactly what the Lions did this year by bringing in Derek Moore. They brought someone behind Aiden to give Aiden rest, also to back him up. The other side was always fine. It was always commensurate, to what you would expect, for production on that side, especially with the way that AQM performed last year. He way outperformed what you would have expected to start the season. But the Packers, they're in kind of a predicament here because they only have Luca Van Ness. They traded away some of their players that were on the defensive line, and so they bring in this rookie, Dennis Sutton, who you guys know I really liked him. He could pop. He could absolutely pop, but I want to say that his rush is going to be a little bit slower to develop versus his run game. And so that's not a for sure answer. And who are they looking to possibly bring in? Are they candidates for Von Miller? Are they candidates for Joey Bosa? Possibly. That would make sense. I don't think Joey Bosa's ever a candidate for Detroit. I don't know why his name keeps getting mentioned in Detroit, especially when you look at injury history. I think it's kind of funny when people talk about the Lions and the injury issues with Marcus Davenport, but then you want to bring in somebody like Joey Bosa that is consistently injured too over the last 3 seasons. It's just never made sense to me. Anyway, last season with the Bills, Bosa posted 5 sacks and a league-leading 5 forced fumbles. So, I mean, he does play well when he plays, but he has to play, right? And I wouldn't say 5 sacks and 5 forced fumbles is an answer. If you're looking for someone opposite or behind Micah Parsons, is that really an answer? No, I think that's a decent backup Quite honestly, it's not going to work out. It's just not. And I don't think it would work out in Detroit either. I would never trade what we have going on in that room right now for 5 sacks and 5 forced fumbles. I would rather see consistency and growth over the next 3 to 5 seasons, which the Lions are going to have. So then you have Von Miller, who registered 9 sacks and 6 tackles for loss and 15 quarterback hits in 17 games with the Commanders last year. I mean, he's also, 92 years old? I mean, he's pretty old. Is that an answer? Probably not. But I think what it brings you, both of those guys would bring you some veteran leadership. And I think that having that veteran, savviness, with their game, I think that it could help them. But I don't think it's going to help them when they're playing teams like the Lions. We've been able to handle guys like that in the past. Micah Parsons did hurt us a little bit, but man, we didn't have an offensive line that was really functioning at a high level in week 1. And then again, what was that week? I don't know. Was it week 16, 17, 18 last year? I can't remember. But our offensive line wasn't functioning that well. So I'm not scared if they bring in either one of those two or both. Not really worried about it, but their defensive line is going to be different this year. They went all in on Micah Parsons, and now look at the problems that you have. When you take a look at Green Bay's salary cap, right now, they have $18 million available of top 51 cap space. $18 million. And like I said, you go all in on Micah Parsons, and he may not even play but half the season this year. And he missed a large part of the season last year. 3-4 games, whatever it was. So the last quarter of the season, which honestly kind of ruined their playoff ability. It ruined their ability to go deep in the playoffs. So exactly why you don't go all in for players like that. They gave up 2 first-round picks. Imagine where they would have been this year had they had those first-round picks. Right? Imagine where they would have been in 27 if they had those first-round picks. Forget the money. The first-round picks were definitely more valuable than what Micah Parsons is going to be, because he's not going to be Micah Parsons in 2026. He's just not. He's going to be coming off a major injury, and it's going to take him some time to get rolling. So even if he gets back to himself in 2027, like, the ship is going to sail, right? I mean, teams, they go through these ebbs and flows, throughout every season, throughout every 2, 3, 4 seasons. And before you know it, Gutekunst is going to be gone and LaFleur is going to be gone. And then the next GM is going to be like, I didn't want this deal. And then they're going to have to get rid of Parsons. They're going to lose a lot of money. I mean, it's just not a good deal when you look around. The whole situation is just not a great deal. So Packers are in some trouble this year on their defensive line, and that all starts with Micah Parsons. But they're in some more trouble, and this is not good. We've seen this kind of pop up over the last couple of seasons. Before I get into that, though, I think that there was a couple of questions. Will BB get signed this season? I don't know, Trace. I kind of said it yesterday that I think that Rod Wood is kind of pulling your leg a little bit when he says we don't need to see these guys play. Look, I've been wrong before, but I wasn't wrong about Aiden Hutchinson. Everyone thought that Aiden was going to get a deal in the springtime. They thought that he was going to get a deal during training camp, and I said, no way. There's no way you're going to pay this guy that kind of money and him not play. And I feel the same should be said for Brian Branch. Now, it's about half the amount of what Aiden got paid, but you're talking, an $80 million contract going to Brian Branch. Now, if they somehow sign him to a crazy, inexpensive deal, dare I say a 3-year deal that maybe $15 million a year, then I wouldn't be as mad as long as it was structured right. And if it's structured right, taking into account for injury and being able to walk away after that first year that deal hits without taking on a bunch of dead cap, then I would say go ahead and get it done right now. But you know as well as I do that's not going to happen. No player is going to sign that deal. No agent is going to want to sign that deal. If they get a new deal, they want the deal to be the deal. So for that, I would say that they're going to have to wait at least until the second half of the season, assuming that BB gets back on the field by week 6, 7, or 8. I think you're going to need to see 4, 5, 6 games of productivity before you could even consider signing him. Now, there's a franchise tag option, right? So they do have the levers to pull, and the franchise tag for a safety. It's a great question here. What is it for 2027? It is projected, Jesus. It's projected to be $22.6 million. There ain't no way they're doing that. There ain't no way. I mean, there's a transition tag of $18 million. That would make a little bit more sense. It's too much money. It's way. I mean, the cornerbacks are at 23.7 with a 19 point, basically 20 million transition tag. So I don't think that they're going to use a franchise tag on them. There's no way, unless they're willing to do it for one season and then get a deal done. And I think you have until July-ish to get that deal done. And then after that, the tag is what it is. And then you have to play under the tag. So, or you don't play at all. I don't think it's going to happen, Trace. I think it's going to happen later in the season. So I guess to answer your question, yes, I think it can happen. No, not right now, but yes, later on, probably, week 12, 13, 14, assuming he's back and he's playing. That would be my best guess. What else do we have for questions in here? Trace, you ain't lying. We could win the Super Bowl every year for the next 10 years, and some fans would still complain because it wasn't up to their expectations. 100%. We can't do enough. For whatever reason, it just seems like the Lions just can't do enough. We can't do enough right. I think that they've done an excellent job. And, the one thing that I've really stuck my neck out on is that you are looking at a team that isn't built for today. Well, let me kind of rephrase that. They're not built to just go win one and done. This team, to your point, is a team that is being built to win year after year after year. Now, do we want a Pittsburgh Steelers run? No. Do I want one Super Bowl? Yes. But do I want to just continually make the playoffs, have a plus 500 win record, and then bounce out of the playoffs in the first round? No. I don't want to see that either. But if we do get a Super Bowl, or let me rephrase that, when we win the Super Bowl, call it this year or next year, or better yet, both, then I say that we're in a good position to whatever happens the next 10 years after that. I would say that you have to be okay with it. And if we are just kind of getting into the playoffs, because you're going to have a lot of players after you win a Super Bowl, and I know a lot of you already know this, when you have a Super Bowl winning roster, what happens the next year to players that weren't signed to a longer-term deal? Just dial those ads back. See, they're crushing everybody. What happens? Their roster gets busted up, right? Everyone wants max pay. Oh, I just won a Super Bowl. I need more money. Well, what other teams look at? Man, that player just won the Super Bowl in Detroit. We want that player here. And they're going to be willing to pay that player because they may have, a need for that position, that player, and have the cap to do it. So after you win a Super Bowl, anyone that's not signed, I think you have to look at the reality. The next 5 years is going to be pretty tough. However, if you look at what Brad is doing, he's locking up every single core piece on this team. And he's getting all of the main core, right? All of the players that you really must have. You can facilitate a really good roster by having, these 1-year deals that he has with good quality players, transitional players, maybe players coming off of an injury that are transitioning into wanting to get a better deal. They need to go, put 1 year's worth of work in. And then, they get a better deal. Whether they stay in Detroit or not, that's yet to be seen. However, I think Brad, what he did this year with the depth, with the veteran leadership, I mean, he really brought in some amazing high-quality football character and players that can help this team win. So when you get to the point of winning the Super Bowl, I'm less concerned about the immediate fallout the next year because we have so many one-year deals and because we have so many players that are I'm not trying to say that they're all not needed player-wise. They're all needed, right? They're all welcome in Detroit. We appreciate each and every one of them. But some of those players that aren't signed are replaceable. And there's going to be players to back them up immediately. But the players you can't back up, the Aiden Hutchinsons, right? Your rookie class over the last couple of years, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Brian Branch. I mean, all these players that you really need to go win a Super Bowl, they're going to be locked up, hopefully, right? They're all going to be locked up. Just taking a look at the players, go off topic for just a moment. The Lions cap table and players that are signed. All right, so Jared Goff, he's going to be with this team until, 2030? I think he's signed through 2030. Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think he's also signed through 2029 or 8, somewhere in that range. Lee McNeil signed for a couple more years. Penei Sewell signed for a couple more years. DJ Reed is signed for this year and next year. Aiden Hutchinson signed through at least 2030. Derek Barnes is signed this year and next year, I believe. J-Mo's signed for at least this year and next year and the following year. Kirby's signed for a few years. Hopefully, he's good to go this year. Jack Campbell's now signed for quality amount of time. Terrion Arnold signed for a couple more seasons. Tyreek Williams is signed for a couple more seasons. Cade Mays is signed for 3 seasons. Who else is in here? Tate Ratledge is signed for another 3 after this year. Isaac Tesla signed for 2 more years after this year. Who else is in here? So not naming a lot of the rookies or second-year players, we have a solid roster. When you look at the core of this roster, we have a solid roster with at least 20, 21 players, prior to the rookies that we signed this year that are going to lead this team for the next 4 or 5 seasons. So after the Lions win the Super Bowl, I think the fallout the next year is going to be less of a blow than it would be had we had, a lot of these players not signed. So to your point again, Trace, I think it's important to lock up these players if you're considering that Brian Branch is going to be the answer moving forward. The problem for me is, man, an Achilles, an ACL, like those injuries are not easy to come back from. And you do lose, based on the stats that I pulled for you guys a few months ago, about a 25% drop in production and about a 25% drop in the physical nature of the player in year 1. That's why I've always said it's a throwaway year. Some players, Aiden Hutchinson, have an amazing comeback season. Majority of players don't. Like, they just don't play to the level that they played before. So for that reason, I'm a little bit concerned, especially with Kirby and Brian. And that's why, I still don't understand not drafting a safety. I respect that Brad said it just didn't line up, but sometimes you got to make things line up. I would rather have seen him jump up into that 3rd round. Word on the street is Kilgore was one of the names that they really wanted. And if memory serves me correct, I think he went 10 spots ahead of the Lions pick. Let me go look him up real quick. But Brad had mentioned in the post-draft news or press conference that some of these safeties just didn't line up for them. So that would have been in the 5th round at pick 27. I can't believe he went that deep. Look, that's a player to watch this year for the Bills, and we're going to see him in week 2. Kilgore is going to be an amazing player. It may take him a couple years, but he's going to be an amazing player. It's my expectation for him. So I think that would have been right in front of Kendrick Law. I don't think it was in front of Abney. Abney's going to be a player to watch this year. I talked about him. We talked about him yesterday. Got to go back and listen to my conversation that we had during the combine when we were down in Indianapolis. Be interesting to see what I said on Abney. I can't remember that far back right now. So they took Kilgore at 167. Yeah, that was right in front of Kendrick Law at 168. So it was after Abney, before Kendrick Law. That's concerning to me. If Kilgore was a player that you wanted, they had Abney rated ahead of Kilgore. And man, they would have had a two-way player. They would have had a safety and a corner. We'll see what happens with Abney. All right, what do we got left on the docket today? We got NFC North news. We got one more piece on that for the Packers. I'll just say all of this is alleged. We've been through this stuff before with Cam Sutton. But yesterday, Green Bay Packers running back Josh Jacobs was arrested Tuesday, and booked into Brown County Jail on 5 charges related to an alleged domestic violence incident over the weekend. Now, according to the Hobart Lawrence Police Department in Wisconsin, the charges against Jacobs, who's 28 years old right now, include felony strangulation and suffocation and 4 misdemeanors of battery, domestic abuse, criminal damage to property of domestic abuse, disorderly conduct of domestic abuse, and intimidation of a victim. Jacobs' arrest stems from an incident that occurred Saturday morning, according to the police news release, as police were dispatched to the disturbance complaint at approximately 8:37 in the morning. According to the Hobart Police, their press release, which I'm going to read for you right now, states, this probably isn't going to line up, but hey, we'll give it a shot. There we go. I knew it wasn't going to line up. There we go. You probably still can't read it, but it goes on to talk about May 23rd, 2026 at approximately 8:37 in the morning. The Hobart Lawrence Police Department were dispatched to a disturbance complaint involving Josh Jacobs. As a result of the investigation, Josh Jacobs was subsequently arrested on May 26th and booked into the Brown County Jail on the following charges. I already went through all that. This remains an active and ongoing investigation. No further information will be released at this time. That was according to Chief Michael Rankus of the Hobart Lawrence Police Department. So disturbing news, unfortunate news, and I hope that everything's good with the victim, alleged victim in this case. And you know how I am. Look, I believe you're all innocent until proven guilty by court of law, not a court of public peers. Public, peer law, I think is disgusting. But if it turns out that he did it, he did it. And I, how the NFL is, like they have a no tolerance policy for this stuff. It's unlikely that he's going to play this season. So now the Packers are really scrambling for many reasons, but they're scrambling and they're going to have some problems. Fielding a team with players they expected that were going to help them this year. And so we'll see where it goes. Man, what a crazy weekend for news this weekend. Pull up their roster. Okay, so backup running back for the Packers right now. You have Jaden Nixon, Pierre Strong, Damon Martinez, Marshawn Lloyd, Chris Brooks. So you have a whole bunch of nobodies. is what you have. You have a whole bunch of nobodies right now. So not good. Not good. Packers scrambling. Yep. They are scrambled eggs this morning, man. Not only or scrambled cheese curds. We'll go with that. They're scrambled cheese curds. But I don't want to make light or fun of their situation. I think that Josh Jacobs needs to get his head screwed on. And again, my condolences to the victim. Not a good situation to be in at all. At all. Next up, let's get into a little bit more legal issues here. And this one includes the NFL. Get this pulled up here. All right, let me get this adjusted so we can actually see it. All right, so Brian Flores, he's been involved in this lawsuit against the NFL. Now, forgive my ignorance here because I can't remember everything that happened, but he filed a discrimination lawsuit against the NFL. And he was a former head coach for the Miami Dolphins. Hold on here. Hold the phone. Let me get situated. All right, so we're just going to read it. Discrimination lawsuit led by former Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores can proceed toward trial after the Supreme Court ruled against the NFL appeal on Tuesday. Flores, who is black, has what a statement that is. My God, has been in a legal battle with the NFL in multiple teams since 2022 when he sued over his belief that he was treated unfairly due to his race after his firing as Dolphins head coach. He alleged that the league remains rife with racism, quote, rife with racism, particularly when it comes to the hiring and retention of black head coaches, coordinators, and general managers, end quote. The NFL appealed to have the case handled through its arbitration process rather than open court in New York, which was denied. So if you don't understand what that means, here's my Cliff Notes version on what I looked up. A lot of times when you sign contracts with companies, I understand like a lot of people, they think that, okay, I signed an NDA with someone or I signed a non-compete with someone. And in there's an arbitration clause that if you break that contract and you sue somebody, for doing that you're going to just take them to court. But if there's an arbitration clause in there, typically for a company, they'd rather have it settled outside of the public eye versus in the public eye. And that's exactly what the NFL is trying to do here. So they tried to have the Supreme Court rule that this needed to go to arbitration versus, a Supreme Court, hearing. And so now the Supreme Court is saying, nope, we don't care about your arbitrations clause. This is a legal matter. We're going to rule on this. And you're now going to have to, fight this in the court of the public eye. So it goes on to say that the NFL appealed to have the case handled through the arbitration process rather than open court in New York. NFL spokesperson Brian McCarthy said in a statement, quote, "We respect the Supreme Court's decision not to grant review. Regardless of the forum, we are fully prepared to defend ourselves as this matter proceeds." The NFL evaluated its appeal to the Supreme Court after unsuccessful attempts to allow the matter to be settled through arbitration in the lower courts. In 2023, a federal judge allowed some claims in Flores' lawsuit to go to arbitration, while others, including those against the New York Giants, the Denver Broncos, and the Houston Texans, all teams Flores interviewed with at some point. These were to remain in court. Now, in August of 2025, a second U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Manhattan upheld the ruling, which also determined that related claims against the NFL could proceed in court. This is bad for the NFL. Right. And I hope that whatever happened to Brian Flores, I hope he ends up with justice. I really do. We've spoken openly about, the Rooney Rule, and I feel like it is just so poorly worded. I understand what they're trying to do. I get it, but man, they should just be treating everybody the same. Like, this is 2026, y'all. When are we going to move past all of this stuff from the past? Like, everybody deserves a fair shot. White, purple, yellow, green, red, nobody should care, right? If you deserve the job, you deserve the job. But they have taken it upon themselves. I feel like the NFL has kind of added this shield, right, that says, oh, no, wait, we want to interview everybody. We do. We want to interview everyone. That's what the Rooney Rule is for. We are trying to take proactive steps to make sure that everybody gets a fair shot. And when I look at it, I'm like, no, I don't think that's what you're doing. I think that you're just trying to put it out there to say, oh, look, we interviewed one, we did our job, and now we're going to hire this white guy, right? Look, Brian Flores was a damn good coach, and he's a damn good football mind. It's not to say that he deserves every single job opportunity that he interviews for, but man, the NFL needs to get in front of this and fast. I mean, they've tried with the Rooney Rule. It's not working, right? It's not working. So we'll see if that Rooney Rule even comes up, in this whole thing. Like if the Supreme Court feels like that rule is, safe enough for the NFL to escape, their claims by Brian Flores that, he has been racially prejudiced against during this process. But here's the next quote here by David Gottlieb and Douglas Wigder, attorneys for the plaintiffs. They said, quote, the NFL must now accept that its commissioner cannot be the arbiter over discrimination claims against the league and its teams. This is a big statement because it goes on to say, quote, we look forward to litigating these claims in court. Why is that big? Well, think about that. If the commissioner, Roger Goodell, is judge, jury, and executioner, like he has been with players, for instance, like Josh Jacobs, that get in trouble, and they get in trouble with the law, and now that goes in front of Roger Goodell. How are we going to punish this player? Well, he's judge, jury, and executioner, and we've seen it, right? Look at what happened with Jamison Williams when he got involved in that whole gambling thing. There was a lot of misunderstanding with the rule. And so he went from a 6-game suspension down to a 2-game suspension, but he already served, I believe, 3 or 4 games, and so he was released off suspension early. But that's because there was no transparency where you had some sort of a, what's the word I'm looking for, precedent put in place, like they then created after the fact that someone broke the rule of gambling. Same thing here. If he's judge, jury, and executioner, that doesn't mean that Brian Flores is going to get a fair shake here. He can just say, I don't want to see this. I don't want to hear this. I don't want nothing to do with it. I don't think that the teams did anything wrong. We have the Rooney Rule. Did they interview somebody that was, of minority descent? Okay, well, then they did their job. And that could be the end of that. I don't agree with it. I don't. I really don't. I think that everybody deserves an opportunity. And I think that the NFL really needs to look, a little bit harder at what they're doing. I would like to give everyone the benefit of the doubt, right? That they really have it in their heart, in best interest of everybody in mind. But you're talking about billions and billions of dollars, man. A lot of funny stuff goes on because of money. Anyway, I hate this kind of news, but I love justice. I love justice. And when justice is served, well, for some people, it's well-deserved. All right, what's up next? What do I have on my list? Moments in time, Brian Flores, Sherman Lewis. Sherman Lewis. How many of you guys, raise your hand, how many of you guys remember Sherman Lewis without looking him up? What did he do for Detroit? And how long ago was Sherman Lewis in Detroit? Now, the late, great Sherman Lewis passed away at 83. And this was May 17th that this was reported. So I'm way behind, but I've been off for a couple weeks. Now, he was a former Michigan State All-American, longtime assistant coach. He won 4 Super Bowls as an assistant. He passed away that Friday, which would have been... I'm terrible with the calendar. I got to have it in front of me. Where is my calendar? Did I just delete my calendar? Uh-oh. My calendar's missing. That's not good. So that would have been May 15 that Mr. Sherman Lewis passed away. So my condolences, as late as they are, to friends, family of Mr. Sherman Lewis. But he won 2 Super Bowl titles as a running backs coach on Bill Walsh's staff with the San Francisco 49ers in 85 to 89. He won another one with the 49ers under George Seifert in 1990. And his final championship came in 1997 with Mike Holmgren in the Green Bay Packers. Now, he played 3 seasons at Michigan State. And in his final season in 1963, he earned a first-team All-America honors and was third in Heisman Trophy voting. Navy quarterback Roger Staubach, he won that year's Heisman Trophy. Now, he ran for 577 yards, 6.4 yards per carry, 303 receiving yards, and 9 total touchdowns. And again, back in 1963, Spartans finished 9th in the final AP poll that season. Go Green. Anyway, we are deeply saddened. Michigan State put out a statement that we are deeply saddened to learn of the passing of Sherman Lewis. And Lewis was a first-team All-American in 1963. Question is, what did he do for Detroit? Well, after being inducted into Michigan State's Athletics Hall of Fame in 2001 for a college career that also included winning 3 Big Ten track titles, 1 in the 300-yard dash and 2 in the long jump, he was drafted in the 9th round of the AFL draft by the New York Jets. And the Cleveland Browns then selected him in the 18th round of the NFL draft that same year. After a short playing career in the CFL and a brief stint with the New York Jets in 66 and 67, he was mostly returning punts and kicks. He was listed as a defensive back. He returned to East Lansing, where he was an assistant on the Spartans coaching staff from 1969 to 1982. He then spent his time as a running backs coach for the 49ers from 83 to 90, receivers coach for the 49ers in 1991, offensive coordinator for the Packers from 92 to 99, offensive coordinator for the Vikings from 2000 to 2001, and then offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions in 2002 to 2004. He finished out his career as an offensive consultant for Washington in 2009. So my hat's off. Condolences to Sherman Lewis. There you go. That's what he did for the Lions. That's the Lions connection. Heck of a dude, man. What a career for Sherman Lewis. What a career. 4 Super Bowls as an assistant. That's pretty special stuff. Headlines of the day. I'm just going to scan what the latest headlines are right now. Tim 20Men says we have 5 things to watch during the OTAs popping off this week. Number 1, new offensive coordinator. According to Tim 20Men, he says the head coach, Dan Campbell, has handed the keys to Detroit's offense over to Drew Petzing as the new OC. Petzing, just 38 years old, was the offensive coordinator in Arizona the last 3 seasons. And some of the core principles that he featured certainly seemed to fit in Detroit, particularly his commitment to the run. The Cardinals were decimated by injury on offense last season, but Arizona was one of only 2 teams in the NFL to average better than 5 yards per carry in both 23 and in 2024. So if you don't think that Jahmyr Gibbs and now Isaiah Pacheco are not going to have great seasons, I'm telling you right now, I'm putting this out there. The more film, the more things that I watch on Pacheco, he's been kind of waiting to kind of get his feet back underneath him after his injury. I think it was in 2024, maybe 23, 24. I think Pacheco is going to be better than Montgomery from a production standpoint. Now, Montgomery was known as, that kind of that grit player, right? The guy that, you could put in these short situations, and he was just a bowling ball. You guys will remember when I called him the sledgehammer. It was funny. I called him Sledgehammer that day, that he had 2 thighs like sledgehammers. And Dan Campbell said the same thing that night in a press conference after the game. It was hilarious. Point being is David did things a little bit differently than Jameer, but at the same time, I think that he could kind of run all of the same patterns and kind of hit all the same holes that Jameer did, just not as quick. He didn't have that top end speed. I think that was evidenced when he got caught from behind after like a 67-yard run. I forget the game. But Pacheco, he's just as fast as Gibbs. And there is a clear difference between Pacheco and Gibbs. And that difference is how violent Pacheco runs. That dude is known to be a hitter. And when I say a hitter, like he is looking for violence. He wants to take somebody out. David Montgomery, I don't think was as violent of a runner as what Pacheco will be. And I don't think he was out there looking to make great contact. I think he was trying to be more elusive. I think what we're going to see out of Pacheco is not only somebody that can be that bowling ball, that sledgehammer around the line of scrimmage, but he's also someone that has the speed and that ferocity to really make some gains after contact. So I think it's going to be fun to watch both of these guys. And I'm going to put it out there. Like I said, both these guys have 1,000 yards this season. All purpose. We know Gibbs will. But I think Pacheco is going to have at least 1,000 yards all purpose. And if he's given plenty of opportunity in the run game, he might push for 1,000 yards on the ground, especially behind this offensive line with the way that Drew Petzing, dials up the runs. If I were to just take the same numbers that David Montgomery had, we'll go 190 touches. That's 950 yards at 5 yards per carry if Drew Petzing is able to average the same that he was in Arizona. And I think he'll be able to average more, given the type of players we have and the type of offensive line. One of the next points is the defensive changes. So I think you guys all know and understand that I have been in the forefront of seeing the changes for the Lions defense this year. I've said it in multiple live streams, a couple of videos, where I said the type of players that the Lions have been bringing in is painted a picture to me of the defensive changes. We've seen a lot of people talk about it after the fact, and I guess rightfully so. I think everyone is starting to see that something is cooking in Detroit, and it is. Tim Twentyman says in 25, the Lions played base defense with 3 linebackers, more than any team in the NFL. But after some defensive turnover this offseason, it'll be interesting to see what kind of schematic approach the Lions take in 2026 based on their current personnel. Campbell said he and the defensive coordinator, Kelvin Shepard, did a deep dive of the defense this offseason, and one of the big picture items they talked about was being more versatile and flexible defensively. Quote here from Dan Campbell says, you're like, all right, what did we do well? What did we not? Where do we go from here? This is who we lost. Here's some pieces that we added. What do we need? And so really the way that Shep's done it, which I love, is we've kind of given ourselves options. We've got kind of 3 options as to where we can go with this. It's still us, but it gives us, depending on who the other defensive end is, are we more of a 4 down or do we become more of a 5 down? Do we become more nickel? And so, like I've been saying from the get, I see more 2 linebacker sets this year. I see a lot more nickel this year. And I'm also saying we're also going to have more 5 men up front. Now, you could have 3 down, 2 up, 2 linebackers, and now you're in that 5-2-4, which I think would be great. But then flip it the other way, and you're going to see a 3-2-5, right? Or you're going to see, at times, you might only have 1 linebacker in the middle of the field. That doesn't mean that he won't have help, but you might only see 1 linebacker, which would be Jack Campbell, and I think on his side, you're going to see 2 safeties, and we'll have more 3 safety looks. And so if you do that, and you go to what I call the 5-1-5, you have 5 up front, 1 in the middle, 2 deep safeties, 3 corners, so a nickel and 2 outside corners. The 5-1-5 is deadly. I don't think anyone calls it a 5-1-5, but I do. That is one of my favorite schemes to run. But you essentially are using bigger safeties or bigger corners as your linebackers. You're getting faster, or you're using your smaller, scrappier defensive ends. And so really the way that Shep's done it, which I love, is we've kind of given ourselves options. We've got 3 options. You're going to see more 2 linebacker sets. as linebackers, which this is where I think Jimmy Rolder has a big key in the cog here. I think that Jimmy Rolder, in this instance, using his ability to tackle in space, a little bit more speed, would be on the field in this instance next to Jack Campbell. And then you have, you might not even see Aiden up. Aiden could be down on the line in this situation. And then you might have Derek Moore and DJ Wanham, both who have a little bit more speed on the ends. And then you put Aiden next to Wanham or next to Moore down. And then you put Tyleek and Aleem in the middle. That is a deadly combination. And if they pull it off this year, I mean, that's a lot to pull off, even pulling off, any two of those types of schemes or formations. But I'm just saying, man, this defense is going to be different this year. It's going to be different. The third thing is just tackle spots. Campbell also noted that back in March, he wanted to move Penei Sewell over to the left side, and the release of Taylor Decker this offseason, obviously it paved the way for that. He goes on to say that Sewell played some left tackle as a rookie, and Campbell thinks that it would be an easier transition for one of the best tackles in football. I don't think it's going to be an easy transition. I think that Penei Sewell will get it worked out. He's going to need a lot of time over there, and he's probably already been working on it. I would expect that he has been. And I think that as he kind of gets initiated back into training camp this year, going up against Aiden and others, that is where he's going to be able to feel it out, figure it out, and get back to, the muscle memory that he's lost over the last 5 seasons of not playing left tackle. Now, the plan to move Sewell to the left side was made easier when we brought in Blake Miller. The fourth thing, rookie roles. So we've talked about Miller a little bit. Second-round pick Derek Moore was the top pass rusher on Detroit's board to begin day 2 of the draft, and they were able to move up to get him. And how will he fit into the edge rotation opposite of Aiden? And then you have the veterans DJ Wanham, Levi Onwuzurike, and others. And I know Levi Onwuzurike is kind of an odd name, odd duck to put out there, but he's definitely a rush end. He's more of a big end, obviously, with his weight. I think he's close to 300 pounds, 306 pounds. But he was used as an end prior to his injury. So I want to say it was in 2024. He was playing pretty well off on the end. That was his best year since he's been drafted. So if he stays healthy, well, not only does that give the Lions an extra guy that you can put inside, but also on the outside with the amount of defensive ends that the Lions have now, he may not be used as much on the outside. He might be used on the inside. Provides a little bit more speed, but definitely a lot of power. And then you're going to see some games, I think, a lot of twists off that right side between Wanham and Levi. I think that's what you're going to need to look for this year. It talks about Jimmy Rolder, 4th-round pick out of Michigan, expected to have an immediate role on special teams. We talked about that the other day. He tries to push Malcolm Rodriguez for a spot this year on the weak side linebacker role. It's going to be hard to evaluate linebackers and linemen until the pads come on. I would agree with that. But how is Rolder in space, and how is he going to react around the football? Those are two things that are coveted by the Lions in what Jimmy Rolder was able to do at Michigan. So those are two things that we're going to have to pay attention to this year in camp. And then you have cornerback Keith Abney, has a chance to make an early impact if he can throw his name into the competition to replace Amik Robertson as Detroit's primary nickel corner. I said the same exact thing yesterday. I really see him fitting in that role pretty well. I know he was utilized a lot on the outside, but he can also play, I think, anywhere up and down the line in cornerback roles, nickelback roles, slot. Yeah, I think he can do it all. We'll see how that works out early here in camp. Next up, he talks about Kendrick Law. What is his role going to be in the wide receiver room? I think it's special teams, immediate special teams. And if you get him involved in some of these gadget plays that Drew Petzing is known for, man, sky's the limit. I ran through a scenario yesterday where, you've got J-Mo coming across, creeping. You've got Mon-Ra running, a route. And if you have Kendrick Law dragging across the middle and you get that, 6, 7, 8 yard pass out, which doesn't really fit what he does because he seems to get the ball around the 3 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. Sky's the limit for him. With his speed, his vision, and with the blocking ability of our offensive players, I think that Kendrick Law is going to find himself in the end zone quite a bit this year. especially when you're operating around the red zone. Lastly, he talks about, Detroit finishing off day 3 with Skylar Gill-Howard in the 6th round and Tyree West in the 7th round. Both have a lot of versatility in their games. They can be chess pieces up front. So those, especially Skylar Gill-Howard, former linebacker, a lot of speed. Him off on the edge, I know he's not a true edge player, but he has the size, speed, and ability to be another guy that you can put on the outside. And when you start thinking about all these different lineups and opportunities, whether it's, 4-2-5, 3-2-6, I think that's where you're going to see Skylar more is when you have, well, let me put it another way. When you have 5 up on the line, I think that Skylar could be one of the guys. I really do. I think that you could put him off on an end, or you can roll him on the inside, lined up over the tackle or inside shade of the tackle. And that is where he's going to utilize his speed, especially on a twist, rolling around and popping those guards, mauling those guards. That's where he finds his niche. And when you go back and watch some of his film, man, he handles guards. Like, there's tons of mismatches that you're going to find for Skylar Gill-Howard. The question is, how quickly is he going to be able to pick all of this up at the next level? Like, that's the thing that is going to slow any rookie down. But if he does well this year and he sticks with the team, which I'm expecting that he will, year 2 is going to be insane for him. I think they're going to find so many opportunities for him on this defensive line as the Lions are making a transition this year. Tyree West, I haven't done enough on him. I kind of mentioned that yesterday. I just haven't done enough work on him to kind of see where his style of his game really fits. I like Howard's skill set better right now, but I guess I'll have to digress, off of West for a moment because I honestly haven't done enough work on him. Just haven't had the time. The last thing he says to watch out for is most coaches and players would agree that a player usually takes the biggest leap in development from year 1 to year 2. So there were a few rookies last year who played significant roles. Tyleik Williams, expecting a big jump from him. Tate Ratledge, a big jump from him. And Isaac TeSlaa. I'm really excited for Isaac TeSlaa this year. I think he's going to carve out an amazing role this year. What do you have, 6 touchdowns on like 40 catches or something like that last season? He overproduced what I thought. I put him in at 5 TDs. I know a lot of people balked at that. They didn't even think he was going to play. But just scratched the surface with what he's going to be able to do. I'm still looking forward to seeing if they're going to pop him in and, playing a little tight end role here or there this season. It's possible, especially when you brought in another receiver in Cedric Wilson, which, I kind of put him in that Tim Patrick kind of a role, same body size and type as the Tim Patrick. Elder statesman around the league. I think he's entering his 8th season or 7th season. But I think that's the Tim Patrick role for Cedric Wilson. If he can latch on, he's going to make things interesting for the bottom of the wide receiver room. Lovett, Meeks, those guys, they have a big challenge ahead of them this year. Going up against Kendrick Law and Cedric Wilson and Isaac TeSlaa. Like those are the 2 guys right now that this new roster didn't benefit. So competition, look, it breeds competition and it breeds the best players possible. And so that's what I'm looking forward to out of the wide receiver room, how Wilson and Law really affect the bottom end of the roster. So that was Tim 20 Minutes wrap up. 5 things to look forward to in the OTAs. Yeah, OTAs start today. So we should have plenty of reports coming out of Detroit today. Here's one thing I don't want you guys to do. All right? Now, that's just my personal request, but I know it's not going to happen. What do we see every year? I've already seen it from multiple teams. You get some rookies. Hold on one sec. You get some rookies that go into camp. When you saw the rookie camps from some of the other teams. And they are just playing amazing. Right? Who was it? Was it Clade Kubnik? I think he might have been one of the quarterbacks. Shedeur Sanders went off the other day. But so you have rookies that come in and they're playing incredibly well. And so all these, content creators or writers or whatever, like, oh my God, we're going to win the Super Bowl. Oh my God, this guy deserves a spot on the roster. Every year it happens. Just slow down a little bit. Just slow down. Pump the brakes a little bit. It is so early. Wait till training camp when pads come on, and then let's see how they're performing. But even then, every year, the Lions have had really good players in camp, some big-time standouts in camp. And then what happens? They don't make the roster. So even though they're playing well in camp, you have to look at the totality of what's going on in camp. Are these guys going up against the bottom of the roster, like fourth and fifth string guys? Remember, there's 90 guys in camp. So if you have a rookie that is going up against a UDFA, a rookie wide receiver going up against a UDFA safety or DB, right? And they just blow them out the water. I mean, come on. Like, that's not exciting to me. I'm glad that they made the play. They took advantage of the player. But now go put Terry and Arnold, DJ Reed or, Brian Branch or somebody else in front of that player. Are they going to perform the same? So if you're beating the number ones, I think that's a conversation to have. If you're beating number threes and fours, that doesn't impress me. I think it's great for vision. I think it's great for headlines. But to a lesser extent, do I think that it makes any sense that those players are going to make the roster? All right, I got two more things I want to finish with today. And as I get my feet back underneath me, I know it sounds weird. I've been doing this for 3 years, but I got to get back in my role. And I'm working through some new templates to organize my show sheets. They're just not there yet. They're not where I want them to be. All right, two more things. Number one, close this out. Let's talk about some moments in time, and then I want to kick back to the schedule, and I guess kind of look at where we see some advantages possibly, or what teams maybe we need to worry about. All right, so back in 2021, look, we had a rough year. You all know that. You were here, or you were watching. But what were maybe, and like I said, I was really interested to see what you guys had to say about this today. But what were maybe 1, 2, or 3 things that really stood out to you in 2021, if anything at all, right? What stood out to you that maybe pointed to we're going to be okay. Maybe it's, it's early, it's the first year, it's a new regime, like we don't have a roster. Was there anything that got you excited for 2022? I guess is probably a better way to say it. So what was a major moment, a more milestone that happened during the 2021 season? Let me know in the comments below in the chat right now. What do you guys think? So if you remember, I'll just walk through this real quick. Going back to 2021. Let's see if I can get this pulled up here. Try to get the schedule up here. All right, this might look a little funny, but is what it is. So, kind of going through the schedule, I mean, we had a really, really, really rough year. So, preseason ended with the Colts. We started off with the 49ers. I mean, we kind of held our own in that game. I was surprised that we were able to hang 33 on the 49ers. Then week 2, we get trounced by the Packers. Week 3, we almost beat the Ravens. And then week 4, we lose to the Bears by 10. Week 5, I mean, we barely lose to the Vikings. So, I mean, there's 2 games in the first 5 weeks that we lost by 2 points or less. I mean, to me, that kind of made me feel a little bit better about the situation. But then as you look at every week, man, it's like, okay, we lose by 8 to the 49ers. We lose by 18, to the Packers. We lose by 10 to the Bears. We lose by 23 to the Bengals. Okay, we almost hung in there against the Rams. That was the last loss that we had against the Rams in 2021, where we lost by 9. And then the Eagles, man, we got smoked, 44-6. And then Steelers, we tied. All right, so this is kind of the turning point in November. It's like, all right, hey, we're getting close. And if you notice, it was that game that things really started to kind of turn for the Lions. We tied, and then the next week, we lost by 3. The next week against the Bears, we only lost by 2. And then, boom, it was the Vikings. And so it was that 4th and 1 decision for me. This is where I'm saying, like, the 4th and 1 decision by Dan Campbell in week 5, I think it was against the Vikings, that kind of going for the win, even though we lost. Like, I noticed then that Dan was different. And so then in week, what week was that? I'm not sure what week that was in against the Vikings here, but there was plenty of opportunity in this game where we could have lost that game. And Dan Campbell was able to keep this team going, even though there was no reason for us to win, right? I mean, the players were deflated after probably week 7, but they held in and they finally pulled out a win. We get to 1-1, we finally got our first win. We got a 1 win and 1 tie. And then we go to the Broncos, and then, I mean, the air just got let out of the tires, right? We get trounced by 18 points. And then after that, we bounce back in a good way where we go and we pound the Cardinals 30-12. We barely lose to the Falcons. We get smoked by the Seahawks. That game, I was so pissed at that game, man. The Seahawks were just so disrespectful to the fans. And then we finished one out, right, against the Packers, 37-30. So, I mean, look, there was a lot to be excited about in that season, but I would say that, or there wasn't a lot to be excited about in that season, but I would say that, seeing what Dan Campbell did in week 5 with that 4th and 1 decision, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown's walk-off TD, it was week 13. That won the game for us there against the Vikings. So both Vikings games really showed me that we had something in Amon-Ra St. Brown, and then also Dan Campbell was going to be doing something different. All right, how about 2022? So 2022, we open up the season against the Eagles at home. And this is a game that we should have won. We lost by 3. So we finished off the year with a win. We come into 2022. We were immediately taking on one of the best teams in the league. And it's the Eagles at home. 38-35. Look, I'm good with the loss, but this is a game that we should have won. I felt like the refs were a little overbearing at times, but we snapped right back in week 2, and we take on the Commanders at home, and we win 36-27. So it's like, man, the Lions are a team. Like, we have a team. We're beating some good teams already. Week 3, we roll right into the Vikings. We go on the road. We lose by 4. It's an okay loss, right? But it's showing me that we're staying in. And the game that really mattered to me, this is the one that really, even though we lost against the Seattle Seahawks, this proved to me that the year before, remember, we lost like 51-23, and now we go hang 45 on them Again, another game that we should have won, but we only lost by 3. That proved to me that we had something, that Dan Campbell was going to be okay. Then the next week, oh my God, the Patriots put it on us, 29-0. And then the next week, we go to the Cowboys. We lose 24-6. And so you kind of get deflated all over again. You're like, what just happened? And then the Dolphins. Now we rip off 3 in a row that we lose. And then we go and we play the Packers, a team that we have to beat, to at least keep our heads above water, still have a playoff chance. We beat them 15-9. We walk into the Bears. We take them out 31-30. Then we walk into the Giants. We take them out 31-18. So we just had 3 weeks in a row that we lost, and now we go and rip off 3 wins in a row, and then we take on the Bills at home. Again, a game we should have won, 28-25. We lose. Is what it is. I believe that was a Thanksgiving Day game. There was a lot of great things that happened in this game, and this is where I saw, there's 2 things, but this game right here, it was the Thanksgiving Day game. It was James Houston, right? A player that, a lot of people are wondering, like, why do you have this player? Player that gets cut, he comes back, he signs a 2-year deal, and then he hasn't done anything. Players are asking during practice, like, when are we going to get this guy up? And in his first opportunity in an NFL game, he goes and he rips off two sacks on Allen, damn near back-to-back plays. But they were 2 of the most violent sacks that I'd seen out of anybody in Detroit in a long time. So kind of woke me up. Unfortunate it didn't work out with James Houston. I kind of feel like Aaron Glenn ruined that one, but it is what it is. There's more players behind him. We follow that up. That loss with a huge win against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 40-14. And then we follow that up with another win against the Vikings. And then, yes, another win again against the Jets. So we lose 3, we win 3, we lose 1, we rip off 3 more wins. And then we go to the Panthers. That was that game that was like extremely cold. Nobody wanted to hit each other. It was like a record for cold in Carolina. And we got our asses whipped. I mean, 37-23, a game that you just wanted, like Dan said, burn the tape, walk away from it. And we're like, hell no, that ain't happening again. We walk in to the Bears and smoke them 41-10. Finish out the year sending Aaron Rodgers packing. It was either we go to the playoffs if Seattle loses. The refs gave them like 5 penalties in like the last 2 minutes to help them win, kept the Lions out of it. We knew going into this game that we were not making the playoffs, but damn it, we were not going to let the Packers make the playoffs either. And we sent Aaron Rodgers home with a loss and kicked him out of the NFC North for good. So it was at this moment here that I'm looking back and I'm thinking, okay, the trade with TJ Hawkinson in week 9, oh, that was an amazing trade for the Lions to pull that off, not have to worry about paying Hawk. But you already knew the way that the season was rolling. It was going to be pretty tough to make it in the playoffs anyway. And then beating the Packers at Lambeau in week 18. Man, I wish I would have been at that game. I really do. That would have been the game to be at that year. All right, let's get into 2023. All right, the arrival. Like this is when the Lions, in my opinion, finally arrived to the table. Like, we got a seat, right? Week 1, right? Week 1. What happens? We go to Chiefs Kingdom, and not only does our new star in Brian Branch rip off, what was that, a 30-yard pick 6 against Patrick Mahomes. I think it was like the first pass play of the game. Might have been the first play of the game, if memory serves me. But he gets a walk-off pick 6 against Patty Mahomes. And then we go on to win this game, and like at the end of the game, it's coming down to the wire, and we walk away 21-20. And it was at that moment that I'm just looking up at the football gods like, are we really here? Like, did we really just do that? And this was a game that I really wanted to go to. Obviously, I didn't. But then the next week, the old Seattle Seahawks again, man. I can't stand that team. It's one of the most hated rival teams for me that's not in the NFC North. But Seattle Seahawks is definitely one of the teams that I really dislike. 37-31, we take the L. But next week we bounce back with a win. And this is kind of when that record started of never losing 2 in a row again. we win against the Falcons. We take down the Packers. We smoke the Panthers. We give it back to them right after that decimating loss the year before. We beat up the Bucs. Well, we get smoked by the Ravens. We beat up the Raiders. We beat up the Chargers away. Like that was a pretty crazy game. It was an explosive game, back and forth. And then we take down the Bears again. But then we lose to the Packers. And this was a Thanksgiving Day game, too. I remember my kids were there. It was a game that I was hoping, that we were going to win, but obviously it didn't happen. And then we go and we take out the Saints. But during this time, right, we had two rookies that were becoming instant stars. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs, after like week 5, started to find his footing. Sam Laporta was on a complete tear. I mean, you could trust Sam at just about any point in the game to get you a first down throughout the season. I mean, what a draft, right? A controversial draft. Everyone's laughing at Brad Holmes. Ha, ha, ha. You took a running back at pick 12. Oh, my God. You took Sam Laporta that early. And what are you doing taking a linebacker at pick 18? And Brad's just laughing the whole way to the NFC Championship game, right? We take down the Broncos. This was the arch nemesis, or the master and the grasshopper kind of a play on words here, where Dan's going up against his former boss, right, Sean Payton, a guy that taught him everything in New Orleans. So take down the Broncos in fitting fashion. I mean, completely smoke the guys. This was the Tim Patrick game too, right? Tim Patrick goes to play his former team. And then the next week we beat the Vikings. And the next week, controversial game against the Cowboys. I'm not even going to revisit that, but what a shitty way to end that game. But David Montgomery, throughout this time, and Jahmyr Gibbs are proving to be the two best running backs in the league as far as a tandem is concerned. And then finally, a generational moment since 1993 happens, and that is where we clinch the NFC North in our first division title since 1993. I mean, the tears that were rolling down my face. I mean, the way that I felt in this game, just amazing to be able to do it, and to be able to do it against an NFC foe in the Minnesota Vikings. So we head off. We go to the playoffs. Two playoff games at home. We win 2 playoff games at home, and then of course we go to the NFC Championship game, where the wheels fell off. So my question, to you guys, 21, 22, 23, where did you really feel that things were turning? So 21 was kind of the foundation was being set, right? You're laying brick by brick. 22, you kind of had the turning point where at the end of the year, you finally take out, an opponent that you've hated forever. And let me roll back. Let me roll back. Here's 21. Here's 22. You finish off the year beating the Packers right here. And so now it's the turning point, right? That was the moment for me that said, okay, moving forward to next year, we're going to do great things. And I stood by that, through all the shows. The podcast was still early, but I mentioned back then that I expected great things for us in 2023. I was still a year away from Super Bowl talk, but man, 2023 just exploded. So you walk through 23 doing things that you haven't seen us do before. Jared Goff was just incredible. Jahmyr Gibbs was incredible. David Montgomery, Sam Laporta, Brian Branch. Jack Campbell even. All these players that we just drafted. They were the reason that we went to the NFC Championship game. Not the only reason, but they were the reason. I think a large part of that season fell on the rookies. So sometimes your rookies can have an amazing, swing of momentum for your team. And then other times it doesn't really happen, right? Sometimes your rookie class they're not able to affect, the team or the game in a big enough way. But this year, I think that this draft is sneaky. And I think, by grabbing some of the players that we did, I think that they're going to have an opportunity to help this team here in 2026. So moving on to 2024, I kind of call this like we went through the arrival season of 23. Like we're here, we made it. We went to an NFC Championship game. We won a couple of playoff games. We were 17 minutes away from going to the Super Bowl. Like, man, we were there. And then we have I don't want to call it a consolation prize, but it was kind of a consolation prize kind of a year because we had so many injuries. We re-signed Monroe St. Brown and Penei Sewell to mega deals. We drafted Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw that, Rake didn't turn out yet, but Terrion was getting penalty after penalty after penalty. You're kind of like shaking your head like, oh my God, what did we do? But if you watch the games and if you watched how he played, I think that you see the other side of where he's growing and who he's becoming. Ben Johnson returns, for that final year after turning down head coaching jobs. And then we beat, the Cowboys in that revenge year, that revenge game. And man, did we poke them, right? 47-9. 47-9. Just crushed them. And that was like Jerry Jones' birthday or something too. Like, just felt amazing. And so it was a consolation prize. Why? Because, we end up with we end up with the number 1 seed and we can't do anything with it. Right? We can't do anything with it. So 2024 or 2025, this is kind of like that Super Bowl push, like we're expecting, like this is really the time to go all in. And hold on here, let me back up. Why don't I see the Washington game in here? There it is. There it is right here. So we get the number 1 seed, but we have so many injuries that year. We were the second most injured team, I believe, that season. And I mean, we were winning games on the backs of our backups. We go 15-2 without having a full roster for about 60% of the season. I mean, we were missing so many guys, so many star players. Jack was literally the last linebacker left, of that starting cast. And Amik Robertson goes out early in that game. He was like the last corner, DB left in that game. So we just didn't have much left. Everyone was injured. Thankfully, the offensive side of the football was still okay, but, a lot of calls didn't go our way in this game either. But I'm not going to blame the refs for everything. I blame Ben Johnson, honestly. And some stupid play calls. All right, so 2025, this is where Jack Campbell really becomes that defensive centerpiece. We acquire, some late help throughout the year. But in 2025, it was kind of a disaster. I mean, just nothing seemed to go well for us. Johnny Morton was a problem. Offensive line was a major problem. I mean, we went from a strength in 24 to, an offensive line that just couldn't perform at all. A lot of confusion, right? Just a lot of problems. But looking at the 2025 season and kind of going back and looking at it, we start off with a hot win in 2025. I'm saying a hot loss in 25 with the Packers, 27-13, and it kind of made you sit back and look at yourself like, what just happened? How did we get that thrashed by the Packers? Our offensive line just looked like they were fish out of water, and it didn't matter where the pressure was coming; it was coming, and we couldn't hold up, and everyone just looked confused, man. Like, not to say that Jared Goff looked confused, but I think everybody around him did. And it just seemed like nobody was on the same page. And so right then he kind of had that feeling like, what's going to happen this year? And then week 2 happens. And it's that Ben Johnson versus Dan Campbell. And I'm like, okay, all right, maybe week 1 was a blip, right? That shouldn't have happened. Maybe that was a blip, and this is who we are. And I remember saying that. I was so proud after that win against Ben Johnson. And I was telling everybody, like, hold your horses, man. Like, it's early. I expect this team to take a couple of, have a couple of hiccups here early through the first, 3-4 weeks of the season. It kind of happens every year that way with a lot of teams. Especially after a lot of change. And I said that because I trusted in Dan Campbell. I trusted in, the guys that he brought in to lead this team. And it just blew up in his face. It blew up in all our face. So then we go into week 3. We take care of the Bengals. We lose one to the Chiefs. Like, I didn't expect the Chiefs to be good. Then they ended up getting a bunch of injuries. They had a bad season, but we shouldn't have lost that game. There was so much that went wrong in that game, from a ref's perspective. I remember putting out that video, about Goodell that still gets like 1,000 views a month. It's crazy. It's like over 120,000 views or whatever. And then the Bucks, we take care of the Bucks, right? We lose to the Vikings. And so we get to this point of the season, and then now I'm like, all right, writing's on the wall. We just don't have it. We just don't have it. Our offense is a mess. Our defense is a mess. We have injuries again. It's not looking good. And then it's like, oh, we smoked the Commanders after sending us home packing, right, in 2024 after what I didn't expect to be a Super Bowl run, not after the injuries. We go and we smoke the Commanders, and so it kind of makes you swallow your pride a little bit again and be like, okay, maybe I was wrong last week. Maybe we are who we think we are, right? No. We go and play the Eagles. Crap game, crap weather. But you know what? They had the weather too. And in a game where I'm expecting to run the ball a little bit more, we're trying to pass the ball. Like, what are we doing? Why are we trying to pass the ball? We got to run the ball. And we should have won that game. There's no reason that you keep the Eagles to 16 points and you can't run the football. You can't pass it in that kind of weather. You can't. Matter of fact, how many passes did we attempt that game? Oh my God. I mean, just look, 0 for 4 or 0 for 5 on fourth downs. 74 rushing yards. See, they had the game plan right. They had 148 rushing yards in that game. Where's the total passes? Hold on, where's it at? 37 times. We threw the ball 37 times in some of the worst weather possible. Jalen Hurts put it up 28. That's acceptable. Like 28 passes a game is about average for Jared Goff. But if you're putting up the ball another 9 times in bad weather, just didn't make any sense, man. 18, 19, 20, 21 carries. Hell, they had 46 carries. Or I'm sorry, 40 carries to our 21. That's how you win the game, man. Run the football. Run the damn ball. All right, so we lose to the Eagles, and then I'm thinking to myself, it's definitely over, right? It's definitely over. We take care of the Giants in a game that was way too close, but I warned y'all about that defense. And now I'm going to warn y'all again. Like, that defense is sick. And with Harbaugh at the helm, Giants is a game that we're going to possibly lose this year if we don't have our heads screwed on right. Lose to the Packers again. Smoke the Cowboys again. Super excited about that. Rams, shouldn't have lost that game to the Rams, but damn, they're a good team. Steelers, I mean, at this point, you knew it's over. You can't lose to the Steelers. You can't lose to Aaron Rodgers. Lost to the Vikings again, and then we finish out barely beating the Bears. So my look back for this year, Jack Campbell, like I said, he becomes that defensive centerpiece. And I guess when you really take a long, hard look at Jared Goff's late season, push and just how well he was really playing, it really got you excited for this year. And so I went through all that just to kind of mention, a few moments in time, just kind of looking back at the feelings, the emotions. Like it feels good to be a Detroit Lion today. It really does, because I think we're in such a great position. The team is deep. The roster is solid. I mean, the cap is going to be tough, but locking up these really solid, core football players is exactly where the Lions needed to be entering this season, stacking a little bit deeper, going a little bit harder this year, totally changing the attitude of the team, getting back to where they were. Dan said that he wanted to be salty again. And that means something, right? It's not just wearing a t-shirt that says salty. It's a mentality, right? You don't want to play the victim, but you want to be salty. You just want to have a little bit more of an edge to you. And I really appreciated what Dan Campbell said, and I think it was at the Combine. where he said, I want us to be, and I'm paraphrasing here, I want us to be, the team that they think they are. But he didn't want them to be, he didn't want them to think that they're somebody that they're not, right? You need to become the team that you're telling people you are. If you're a gritty team, you need to be a gritty team. If you're going to play hard, right? If you think you're one of the hardest teams in the league, you need to play hard. It's one thing to say it. It's another thing to do it. And the image is everything. What you put out there is everything. And so kind of paraphrasing what Dan is saying is, let's not tell people we're this type of team. We need to go show people we're this type of team. And I think that's what you're going to see this year. He's going to I think Dan is going to kind of wrap the last 5 years in a big bow, right? One big package. And you're going to pull out everything that they did well. The resiliency from week to week. We just got our asses handed to us, and then we don't lose 2 games in a row ever. We did not have a good season, but man, we ripped off 3 wins here, a loss, 3 wins here, a loss, 3 wins. You know what I mean? Like, you're putting stretches together. You're going to lose some games. You're going to have a moment in the season that is going to be tough. Whether it's injuries, weather, a stretch with not a whole lot of rest, it's going to be tough. Every team faces something. It's how you react when you face that moment. And Dan is trying to get this team back to reacting in a way that shows professionalism, grit, and just having a little bit more salt than the other guy, right? A little bit more bite than the other guy. So to reach into 2026, I think what's going to emerge for us this year is Brad Holmes. He's done such an excellent job. And no, I'm not just some Brad Holmes lackey. I'm not I don't just agree with everything that he does. And I think the people that watch this channel that really know me, they know that. I give credit to where credit is due, and I give criticism to where criticism is due, or owed. And Brad has done a lot of great things. He's put this team in the best position it's ever been in my lifetime. This is where it all comes together. All the roads go through Detroit. Remember how Dan used to say that? That's where we're going to try to get back to. And I think that the Lions will. All roads need to lead through Detroit. And the emergence of the Detroit versus everybody, it has to happen this year. Like, this is the year it has to happen. Ford Field needs to get back to being the Ford Field that it was in 2023. I don't know what's happened over the last 2 years at Ford Field, but y'all need to wake up. Like, leave the penny loafers at home, okay? Put on your work boots and come in with a hard hat, pack a lunch, and help this freaking team win. If you're not screaming your head off on an opponent's 4th down or 3rd down, then don't go to the game, right? Because that team needs you. That team thrives off how you react. So we need to get back to being better fans. Quit all this interpersonal hate and all this anger and resentment towards each other, right? It's let's just get back to being fans. Let's get back to being the best damn fandom that there is in the NFL. And I truly believe that that's who Detroit is. Well, we are the best. We may not have won a Super Bowl yet, but we're still here. And not a lot of fan bases would be, but we're still here. We have to get back to being one of the loudest stadiums in the league. And then that all starts with us. So that's kind of what I wanted to leave you with today. I think I've hit everything today that I wanted to talk about. So now it's up to you. It's up to you. Let's get the mailbag rolling. I think I figured out my email problem. I was getting a lot of emails that I wasn't able to respond to. So for those of you that sent emails that I didn't respond to, start sending them again. I think I have it fixed. For some reason, I wasn't signed into it, which doesn't make any sense because I'm signed into it. It's just the way that my carrier works. So start sending the emails. Let's get the weekly mailbag loaded back up with questions, statements, content ideas, and I'll start pumping it out. I am going to be doing more and different content other than the Lions this year. I do other stuff on other channels that people don't know about. I have other channels that people don't know about because I'm behind the scenes. I'm not out in front. And so a lot of my time has been diverted to that. But this year, I'm going to make sure I put a little bit more emphasis into this channel to do more. And most importantly, to do more for the foundation, because that's going to grow this year into something special. Members, we will be doing some members only stuff. And I really hope that y'all get in and take pride in it. And let's make it about you, right? Let's make it about Lions fans and members. And for those of you, I'm going to change up a few things on the membership. So for the lowest tier, I'm going to make it even less expensive. And the highest tier is going to go away, because if you're going to, well, it's going to go away to a point. But I need to steer some memberships over to the Buy Me a Coffee program. And I'm going to start doing some things over there as well. So Buy Me a Coffee will be changing a little bit, adding some more of the things that I've been working on over the last 6 months. And those things are going to start popping up. I've already put a couple of pamphlets up there, but also working and hopefully going to be working with some other bigger .orgs, if you will, 501c3s and some other nonprofit entities that are all about thyroid cancer. And so I've had brief conversations and looking to do some really fun stuff with them. So I'm really looking forward to all the partnerships, and of course appreciate and thank all the sponsors. We'll get back to that. Obviously, if you want your ad down there, you just let me know. Email me at mailbag@rockdown.com, and we'll get you guys set up. It's not expensive. It's really not. It's all about the right people, the right opportunity, and 24/7. So anyway, bus takeovers, what's happening with them? You just got to get a deposit in. The rest of the information will come out this week. There's going to be 2 ways to do it. If you've already bought a ticket and you just want to ride on the bus and take part of the entire, opportunity to be with a bunch of fans, then we'll allow you to do that this year. We weren't going to do it in the past, but I think it's a little bit easier, because when we don't get deposits in before the 12th and then the schedule comes out, I have this much time to go in and secure tickets. And I'm just not willing to put $30,000 into tickets for one game or more, right? Actually it's like $18,000 or $20,000 per tickets, depending on the team. I'm not willing to do that and then not fill a bus. So I'm going to put the information this week. It hopefully should be out this week. I got a lot of stuff to do. But if you want to join the bus and you've already purchased a ticket to an away game, there's going to be a price for that. And then if you want us to furnish you a ticket, you want to sit with a group, there'll be a price for that. But at the end of the day, your bus, we're going to pick up at 2 locations, one in Detroit, one in Kalamazoo. That way we can get people from Detroit over. Kalamazoo's the easiest place, off of 94 to pick people up. And then your hotel will be included, snacks, drinks, all that type of stuff will be included on the bus, like your box lunch, and then full tailgate wherever we go. We'll either cater in Mission Barbecue, which I partner with them because they do stuff for our veterans, right? That's what they're all about. And so I think it's really important to partner with people that do more for the community. And if there's not a Mission Barbecue there, I will always find somebody else to partner with. But we pay for all that, right? So that's all included. And then it's full tailgate. So, there'll be chairs, tables, games. You can bring games, whatever you want to bring to play, if you want to play cornhole or whatever. But depending on the game, now that we know the schedule, we can outline what the schedule really is. So now all the schedules have disappeared on Buy Me a Coffee, where you purchase the tickets, and now it'll get filled up with the exact itinerary of what the plan is. So it's kind of tough to do an itinerary before when you don't know the schedule. But that's why we do a deposit, hold it, and then if you don't like the price and if you don't like the trip, we refund it by the end of May. But if you want to do the trip, then now we'll put the full price in and you can purchase it that way. And we'll give you 2 payment options. You can still put a deposit, which is now non-refundable. So once you deposit it, we can't refund it because that money goes to secure things. And then there'll be a second date to finish paying for your trip, which is like 60 days before we depart. Ticket prices scream penny loafers. No, not really. Look, there's another. So I started doing this like 2 seasons ago. No, I think, 2 seasons ago I started doing, maybe 3. But then there was a company that came in and was tied to doing it with the Lions, which is funny, just like my coffee. So in January of 2023, no, January 2024, I had the video of one of my very first Rise and Grind morning shows where I said that I was going to do coffee. I actually called that company to partner with them. They didn't want to partner. And then in June of 2024, they started to partner with the Lions. So you do the math. I started in January. They started in June. So for people that make up lies and say like I copied someone, just like my Detroit Football Journal, it's not the same name as someone else. There's no other name called Detroit Football. I own the .com. There can't be another name. Morons, man. People are just stupid. But anyway, as far as pricing, you go look at that other company's price. It's double. It's double what we charge. And if we make 10% as a way to have a net gain of 10%, very, very transparent about that. That's our goal. I can then fund more of the Cancer Foundation stuff. And so that's the whole focus behind it. It's not tied directly. It's just I want to be able to donate later. So having these things on Buy Me a Coffee, you can do, like if you're a nonprofit, you can do stuff on there. If you're a creator, you can do stuff on there. If you're a business, you can do stuff on there. You can sell digital tickets. You can sell tickets to anything. You can sell merch, which I have new merch coming out, by the way. I'm launching a whole new brand of T-shirts. One of them is called Turn Pain into Power. That's all geared towards thyroid cancer. So turn pain into power. And we got some other things coming out for the season for the Lions. I'm only going to do a couple of things because I had like 50 different designs, and I think that it's just too much. So we're just going to do a couple. If you guys want to see something on a shirt, just email it to me. Well, if I like it, we'll make it. And then I've got another company that I just started this last week that is doing other stuff, which I'm behind the scenes on. I'm not out in front because I don't want my name associated with it. It's just some funny stuff. So it's leading me into doing more things merch-wise. So I'm a very busy dude. I got a lot going on. But my goal is unity, man. I've always said it from the beginning. My goal is to bridge the fan to the team. And I know that there's some people out there that have tried to steal that tagline from me. But I didn't trademark it, so I don't really own it. But I've always said how I want to bridge the fan to the team, and this is a way to do it. If I'm able to provide a trip, which if you were to go on a trip by yourself to a Lions game, away game, let's say you live in Michigan, and you're going to leave on a Friday, by the time you pay $5 a gallon for gas, assuming you have a vehicle that has gas, I mean, just going to Green Bay alone is going to cost you probably $300-400 in gas. And then to stay in a hotel, in a good hotel, it's probably going to cost you about $180-250 a night. So you're going to get at least 1 or 2 of those. So just add that together. That's 2, that's 4, that's $700. You haven't bought a ticket yet. Tickets are going to run pretty close to $300. Decent seat, not the best. Go look at ticket prices. They're crazy. So let's just call it $300. So now you're at $1,000. And then you want a full barbecue meal. Well, that's going to cost you $30-35 a person if you go to Mission Barbecue, or if you go to a restaurant, or if you pay, down at the stadium, $10 for a hot dog. It's going to cost you a lot of money. So $35 a person. So now you're at $1,035. And then you have all the stuff in between: box lunches, drinks, snacks. We do a giveaway for a large, like 36 by 36 framed jersey. The player, I don't know which ones we're doing this year. Those are cost $750, something like that. So we give that away. Everyone gets a ticket for that. It's a free giveaway. Or everyone gets an entry, not a ticket. They get an entry. What else? Parking. That's anywhere from $50 to $100 a car, depending on where you park. Tolls, that's all included. What else are we doing? I'm sure I'm forgetting a lot. Hold on. I should just do a whole video about this. I probably will. We still have some time. Like, we still have some time to get some buses put together. And I'm going to have to put a new disclaimer in there, because if we don't fill a bus, then if you're available to go to a different game, then we could just transfer it to a different game, but the other game might not be the same price. Hold on. So just looking at like the Vikings, you get the luxury charter travel, hotel accommodations, driver gratuities. I mean, that's 10% of the total cost. So that's usually about $500 per driver. Parking fees, tolls, the tailgate experience, which is all included in the tour package. The prize giveaway, which I or any volunteers or my family members are not included in that. So if they join, any mods, if they join, they can't be included in the giveaway. That's just a straight up giveaway. The tailgate, you have onboard snacks. So you get prepackaged like chips, granola bars, cookies, candy, beverages, box lunch. And these aren't like junk. Like, they're really good, homemade, good stuff. But I'm going to have, 5 different types of cookies, 5 different types of chips, 10 different types of drinks, juices, whatever. I'll have gluten-free options. We'll have low-sugar options. So it's really expensive to put all that together. And then it's the tailgate experience, right? So if you have this big tent, chairs, tables, heaters in the winter, I mean, that costs me like $4,000 just to buy all that stuff. So it's not cheap, but if it costs you $1,500 to go to a game, it's going to cost you that to go by yourself anyway. And our goal is to make 10% above. So it's not any different than what you're really going to pay. Our goal is not to make a bunch of money. Our goal is to bring a bunch of fans to a game and then hopefully make a little bit of money to donate, which is always the plan. So it's definitely legit. It's definitely going to be fun, and it's something that I want to do for every team around the country. I want to get Lions fans to every stadium, and so the goal is I want to try to add at least one stadium per year, and we might fly. Like, we might fly to some of these places. Like, I'm planning on going to Miami. If I can work out a deal to get, 50 people to go to Miami and book, a hotel block and flights and everything like that, I mean, that's a game to go to. I was just looking at tickets, though, the other day, and you can't even sit in that stadium for less than probably $250 to $350 up in the nosebleeds, depending on where you're purchasing through. I found some tickets the other day that were in the lower bowl for like $225, but there's not 50 of them. So we'd be scattered everywhere. And some teams don't like to play. Like, they won't book me 50 seats, and they won't give me a discount. Teams like Arizona or the Vikings will. Bears don't. But the Bears, like, it's important. Like, if we can't, if Soldier Field is not a thing, if they're not in Chicago anymore, I'd love to bring some fans to visit, Soldier Field this year, and it could be the last time. You never know. But anyway, that's it. Just check out buymeacoffee.com, or I'm sorry, buymeacoffee.com/rocked on, and that's where you can find out more about the tours. All the information is there. I'll put the rest of the information up this week, so we can get rolling. All right, that's it. I'm out of here. You guys have a wonderful day. We'll see you guys tomorrow. I think I'll be back on tomorrow. Attila, going to the Atlanta game. Plane ticket was $118 round trip out of DTW. Train from the airport to the hotel stadium, $250 each way. Hey, that sounds like a good game to go to. Atlanta? That's a crazy cheap ticket. Hopefully it wasn't Spirit, because they're no longer. All right, y'all. Take care. Probably go to Try Lions. Be nice to each other. Take care of each other. We'll see you guys in the next one.
Pressured by Hutchinson. He goes down.